This video is about circles, and particularly solving problems with equation in the form x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And don't forget that formula is on page 19 of the log tables. So here's an example. The circle has centre 1 minus 3 and contains the point 2, 4. Find its equation. Well, just first of all, just to clarify what they mean by contains the point 2, 4, that makes it sound like the point 2, 4 is inside in the circle. But actually, when they say the circle contains it, it means that it's on the circumference. So this point is on the circle. And I want to find the equation, so I need to know two things. I need the centre and I need the radius. Now I already have the centre, that's been told to me in the question, it's 1 minus 3. So before I go to find the equation, the radius is the first thing I must calculate. And of course, if I have a situation like I do in this example where I know the centre and I know a point on the circumference, well then to find the radius, I must find the distance between them. And that will require me to use the distance formula, which is on page 18 of the log tables. So there's my formula. And before I begin to fill into it, I'm just going to go and label the 2 points that I'm using nice and clearly. So here are the 2 points, and I'm going to call them x1, y1 and x2, y2, and then I sub into the formula. So my radius is going to be the square root of 2 minus 1 squared plus, and now just be careful in the second bracket because you're going to have a double negative. So 4 minus 3 squared. Now why is that? Well, this negative is from the formula and this negative is from the point. Just keep your eyes peeled for that kind of thing. I can type this whole thing into the calculator in one go, and that's probably the best plan to avoid making small mistakes that will send the question off. And when I do that, I get root 50. So now I have my two required pieces of information to find the equation. I have the centre and I have the radius. It would be a good idea at this stage to label those using h, k and r. And now I'm going to fill those values into my equation formula. So I'm going to have an equation that looks like this: x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared, again negative from the formula, negative from the point, equals root 50 squared, and then just a little bit of a tidy up to get my final answer. And in this case I get x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 50. So here's our second example. A line joining 4 minus 1 to minus 2, 5 is the diameter of a circle. Find the circle's equation. So it's a good plan to make a note of the formula. Again, page 19 of the log tables. And also not a bad plan to visualize what the question is telling us. So we're being told that we've got a line that joins 2 points together, and that's the diameter of a circle. Now we want to find the circle's equation, so don't forget the two things we need to fill into the formula are the centre and the radius. So how am I going to find those? Well, first of all, the centre is just going to be halfway along the diameter, and the formula I can use to find that is the midpoint formula for the line. So there's my midpoint formula. So that'll give me the centre of the diameter, which is the centre of the circle. And then next I'll need to find the radius, and that will simply be the distance between the centre that I found in any of the other points on the circumference. And that will be using the distance formula from page 18 of the log tables again. So again, page 18 of the log tables for that formula. So let's find the centre first. Probably not a bad plan to write the 2 points that I'm going to use down first of all and label them before I fill them into the formula. There's my 2 points, and there they are labelled. And now I'll fill those into the midpoint formula. Don't forget with the midpoint formula, each part of it is a separate calculation. So I can put this bit into the calculator in full, and I get an answer of 1 for that part. And I can put the second part of the coordinate into the calculator in full, and I get a 2 for that part. And don't forget, of course, the centre is going to be a point, so I'll write it as a point, 1, 2. So the centre found, I still have to find the radius before I can find the equation. So the radius is just the length of any line from the centre of the circle to the circumference. So I'm going to use my centre, which is 1, 2, and either of these points will do then for that distance formula. So I'm going to just pick 4 minus 1. You could use minus 2, 5 either if you liked, it doesn't make a difference. And just before I fill those points into my formula, I'm going to label them as x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so now I'm filling in for the radius. And there's my calculation for radius. And again, don't forget, you can type this whole thing, including the root symbol, into the calculator all in one go. It's probably the best approach to take. And when you do that in this case, you get an answer of root 18, or the calculator may give you 3 root 2. So now I have the two components that I need to find the equation of the circle. I know the centre, which is 1, 2 in this case, and I know the radius, which is 3 root 2, and I should label both of those before I go any further. So I'm labelling the centre HK, as you can see here, and I'm labelling my radius as R. Okay, now for the last step, finding the equation of the circle. So you can see my formula up here at the top, on page 19 of the log tables, and I'm just going to fill the H, the K and the R in. And notice this time around, I don't have any messing around with signs to do. I only have to square out the sky at the end. Just be careful as you type that into the calculator. Type it in exactly as you see it. Do make sure to put the brackets in around the number. So in bracket before the 3 and after the root 2. If you don't put the brackets in, the calculator is going to misinterpret your calculation. And your final equation in this question is x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 18.